right, let's talk about checklists. Our property management system relies heavily on checklists. So let's go through some of them together and that'll help you get started. There's a checklist for move-ins. The renting agent gets paid a leasing fee of $5.99 when they successfully locate a new tenant that moves into a rental property. In order to get paid that fee, they have to supply a file of completed paperwork. This checklist tracks all the required paperwork so that the property manager can get paid. And it is called Checklist for Move-ins. So let's kind of take a look at that. It will be your job to work each checklist for each property that gets rented and make sure that the property manager gets paid. That office manager does that. As you can imagine, the property managers get upset if a leasing fee is missing from their paychecks. If the required paperwork is not completed in a particular month, the property manager can finish out that paperwork and receive payment the following month. Property managers don't like that, but that's always an option. You don't have to get the missing paperwork, you just have to inform the property manager of what they need to do. While it is the responsibility of each property manager to make sure they have all their paperwork completed and turned in, they're going to rely on you to help them out with that. There is a file of active checklists on your desk. You will need to print out new checklists as needed through ACT or CRM. When a property manager turns in a new tenant file for a property they have just rented, you'll print a new checklist and start working on it. Once you feel confident that all the required documents for a particular property are complete, you'll finish out that checklist. Once per month, just before payday, please compile all these completed checklists in the file. Pull the complete file for each checklist from the file cabinet, get everything put together, and then please do make sure that the paperwork in the file is in the same order as the checklist. The managing broker will review each file and the checklist and then authorize that for payday. In the event that the managing broker isn't available to make sure all the files are ready, you should do the following. Go over the tenant file checklist and make sure that everything that's on the list is in the file in order. Make sure that the correct listing agent and renting agent is listed on the top right-hand corner. If it isn't listed correctly, the wrong agent will get paid. And it's very important to have the correct agents in those spaces. You can see this checklist. It's on the next page of your outline. So this is what the checklist looks like. Make sure that the owner file has the management agreement, a lead-based paint disclosure if the house is made prior to 1978, and make sure that all the information in the CRM and the computer is filled in. When the above is complete, write on the bottom of the checklist that it's ready to be paid and the date. And that allows the accounting manager to pay the property manager. You will then present the approved move-in checklist to the accounting manager for their processing and promise. The checklist is found in purple font below. So here's kind of what it looks like. A little bit of information at the top: who's the owner, who's the tenant, what's the rental property address, who's the listing agent or the property manager, who's the renting agent, who found the tenant, move in and move out dates. It's going to have some information about the owner's part of the file and the required items for the tenant part of the file. And there's space for notes if there's anything you need to write down. Then you make a stack of completed files. So the big fat file with the checklist in it for the managing broker to approve. This is completed, and then approved checklists go into the accounting file, into the accounting manager for her processing and promise. And after all that gets done, the agent gets paid their leasing fee. All right, let's look at the security deposit refund checklist. After a tenant moves out of a house, we have no more than 60 days to refund any unused deposit to the tenant, along with a detailed accounting report. I prefer to complete this accounting around day 30 to day 40. I just figure, why wait to the very end? If we ever miss that 60-day deadline, we would have to pay the tenant 3 times the amount of the deposit as a penalty. I don't want to write a check for $4,500, so please make sure that we are not missing any deadlines. We use this checklist to make sure that no details of the deposit are missed. And again, there's a copy of the checklist on the next page of your outline. Again, it is true that it's each property manager's responsibility to make sure that their security deposit refunds are completed on time. You are kind of the safety net for the company, making sure all the property managers are getting their security deposits done when they need to. There is a file of active checklists on your desk, so you can print out new checklists that are needed as they come up. In this file, group the checklists in chronological order by month so you can quickly see which deadlines are approaching next. Go through the file on a regular basis to stay current on your deadlines. Print a tenant statement as needed from Promise to see what charges have already been paid out of the deposit, and fill that in on the checklist. And you'll learn how to print that report in your Promise tutorial. We complete an Excel spreadsheet known as a security deposit disposition for each deposit refund that we do. That's on the next page of your outline, so you can see what a sample one of those looks like in purple. If you have time, start an Excel spreadsheet for each deposit, filling in as many blanks as possible, and email it to the property manager. It's just a nice way to help out the property managers. Once the checklist is complete and the security deposit disposition form has been approved by the property manager, you'll present the completed checklist and the form to the accounting manager. The accounting manager will write the refund check out of Promise, and then you guys can mail it. All right, let's go through this checklist in detail. So here's kind of what these checklists look like. Again, at the top, you'll have a place to indicate who the tenant is, the move-out date, who the listing agent is, and who the renting agent is. It's the listing agent that's responsible for the security deposit refund. Then each of these categories is like a thought starter. Did we need to charge them for house cleaning? Did we need to charge them for carpet cleaning? Were there any repairs that need to be done? Is the fun and water bill paid yet? Did the tenant leave the garage door openers and the house keys? Things like that. If they broke their lease early, there'd be another set of items that may or may not be charged to a tenant. If they were evicted, there'd be another set of items that may or may not be charged to a tenant. These are all thought starters. After you've worked through about the first 2/3, you can see it says property manager authorizes accountant to write the check for security deposit refund in the amount of. So they're going to indicate to the accounting department how much refund is kept or is due. Then there's some thought starters for processing the paperwork. What do we need to keep for the file? What do we need to mail to the tenant? What do we need to do in the computer? So it's a great checklist that'll walk you right through the process. Here's a copy of that security deposit disposition form. Again, this is an Excel spreadsheet, and it's just filled out with the same information that would be found on the Promise tenant statement. Feel free to track these security deposit refund deadlines any way that you want. You can do it on a calendar, you could do it on a spreadsheet, whatever works for you. It will be your job to make sure the check is actually mailed out to the tenant.